The Y-intercept equation. The general formula for the slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b, where m represents the slope of the line and b represents the y-value of the line's y-intercept. The slope-intercept form of a linear equation makes it easier for us to identify how steep a line is and where it crosses the y-axis. So to find the slope m and the y-intercept b of an equation, firstly, you have to write the equation in the y-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b. Now, the main point is to solve for y, with m being the slope and b being the y-intercept. Here's the first example of the y equals mx plus b formula. As you can see, y equals negative 5x plus 6. Now, if we replace the numbers with the letters in y equals mx plus b, m would be equal to negative 5 and b would be equal to 6. Here's another example of the y equals mx plus b formula. Now, because there is a y in front of the y and we only want there to be y, then we have to remove the 2 from the left side. We can do this by dividing the left side and the right side by 2. This gives us m equals 7 over 2 and b equals negative 2. Here's the third example of the y equals mx plus c formula. This time we have 2x plus 3y equals 6. Now, you can notice that the 2x does not belong on the left side. So we can remove the 2x from the left side, and we can also remove 2x from the other side, which gives us 3y equals negative 2x plus 6. Now, because there is still a 3 in front of the y, we have to remove the 3 from the left. We can do that by dividing the left side by 3, whilst also dividing the right side by 3. This gives us y equals negative 2 over 3x plus 2. This gives us our answer, with our m being negative 2 over 3 and our b being 2. Here's one more example of the y equals mx plus b formula. As you can see, it's similar to the last equation, there is a negative 7x in the front of the equation. We can simply remove that and replace it by putting it on the other side by adding 7x from the left side and adding 7x to the right side. This gives us negative 5y equals 7x plus 25. Now, you can realize that there is still a negative 5 in front of the y. We can simply remove that by dividing the left side by 5 and the right side by negative 5. This leaves us with y equals negative 7 over 5x minus 5. With our m being negative 7 over 5 and our b being negative 5. This time, you're going the other way. For example, you get given 2 numbers and you have to put them into the equation. This is really simple. Firstly, you have to lay out the y equals mx plus b formula. Afterwards, you just replace the letters with the numbers. For example, the first one, y equals 3x plus negative 2. You simply can do the y equals mx plus b formula by simply replacing the letters with the numbers on top. In the second example, m equals 0 and b equals negative 5. Since m equals 0 and 0x is also 0, you do not need to write that equation, or that part of the equation. You just need to write y equals negative 5. In the third example, m equals a half and b equals 1 is the same thing as the first equation. You just replace the letters with the numbers. So you get given a y equals mx plus b form equation, and you're told to graph it. Now, here are some steps on how to graph a graph. Firstly, you have to solve it and put the equation into the y equals mx plus b format. For example, some of the earlier equations we had was not in the y equals mx plus b format. The x might have been on the wrong side, or there might have been a number in front of the y. So we can simply remove them and put it into the y equals mx plus b format by modifying and changing the equation. Then we have to put our b, which is our y-intercept, on the y-axis. For example, if our b was 5, then we will put it on 5. Then from your y-intercept, you have to use your slope, which is your rise over run, and then you have to go and find your second point. I will explain this more detailed later. And then now you have 2 points that you can draw your straight line on. Here is one example in graphing an equation. Here we have y equals 5 over 3x minus 2. Now, Firstly, we have to plot our b onto our y-axis. In this case, it is -2, so we would put 1 point on -2. Our m, which is 5/3, is also our rise over run. Our rise is 5, and our run is 3, so we have to go up by 5 and across by 3. And there you have it. Here's another example. Y equals -2/5x plus 4. Firstly, we have to plot 1 point on our y-intercept, which is 4. Then, we have to identify our rise over run. In this case, our rise is -2 and our run is 5. So, instead of going up by 2, you go down by 2 and across by 5, and you find your second point. Here's one last example. Y equals -3x plus 7. Firstly, we have to plot our point onto 7, and then we go and put our gradient in. Now, since our m is -3, we don't know what the run is. Now, -3 is equivalent to -3/1, so we would go down by 3 and across by 1.